When you talk about the term collection, I think that it's a broad subject that I could stand here all day and talk about, but the basics of it, what I want you to understand, what you need to do is the whole purpose of collection is that this horse's back and his neck needs to be like this. So his back, when you're riding him, does not need to be bowed like this. Okay, can you see that, Brandon? Like this. What we want is when we're riding him, I want his back like that, rounded. Okay, so when his back's hollowed out, he cannot get his hip up underneath him. He can't get his leads properly, and he cannot carry himself in a graceful, cadent way. Okay, so where that all starts is right here and right here. Okay, so when we ride him, this is called his vertical, his forehead right here, and his jaw needs to be soft. So we need to be able to drop and get that vertical like this. So you notice when I do that, when I get him in proper vertical here, okay, he picks up and lifts right here with his withers. Okay, so if he's going to ride around with his head up in the air like this, see how hollow that gets right there? Okay, so we're going to want to soften this neck to get an arc in this neck like this, and an arc in this back like this. Well, you can't do that if this is like that. Okay, now every horse head and shoulders are different, and his shoulders come out of his, or his neck comes out of his shoulders differently. So I want you to look how Petey's come out at an angle like this. Some horses, their neck comes out like a pig, straight. His comes out more like a rooster. Okay, now if you look at Monroe's horse here as he goes along, okay, his horse's forehead is straight up and down. Okay, see how he's got his neck arched and he's lifting his back, and he's using his hindquarters primarily. He's not putting a lot of weight on his front. Okay, so if you'll watch that horse, and the Germans call it schwung, where he's aloft. You know, his feet are in the air about as much as they are on the ground. Okay, and if we were standing here and we had rubber mats in here, you could barely hear his feet touch the ground. When he is collected and he is balanced and cadent, he's going to gracefully move along. See here, his feet just touch the ground very softly and harmoniously. And notice Monroe's not dragging his face around. He's just very softly guiding him. This horse, he's almost finished, but he's still schooling him on bowing and flexing, stopping like that. A nice halt, nice soft halt, turn, step over in the front. Okay, that's all. That's an appropriate way to do that. So there's a difference between riding a horse and schooling a horse. Well, what you see right here, this is schooling. We're teaching this horse to do it right. We're not training him like a circus animal. We're schooling him. If you do this correctly, Noble, it's a lot less work. Very harmonious. Okay, just like that. Very good. So let's come back over here to Petey, and we'll look that if this horse, if his hocks right here are set back like a trotter, they're made to trot, and his hocks are set back, he can't do that gracefully. He's got to be able to get up under himself. So when I put that stick there, see how his hock is in front of his tail set and his hip like that? Well, that's what you got to look for. Well, if we go out here and look at a Friesian or a standard bred or a horse that's made to trot, if I go like that, that hock is going to be back where that stick is. Well, it's impossible for him to gracefully move and canter appropriately. So that's why when we buy horses and we look at horses, those are very important things that we look at. that, you know, he needs to be able to mechanically function before we can ride him. I mean, we can't make a bad one good, no matter how hard you try. He has to mechanically be able to do it. So, like with Petey here, you know, he's a chunky little guy, and he's made to sort cattle in a pen. He's made to work in a corral and sort cattle. Where, like Monroe's horse there, if you look how he's cantering around, okay, he's made to do something a little different. You know, he's made to cross country gracefully. So if you wanted to travel to the end of the ranch, 7 miles, you get on that horse and he'll just very gracefully move along. But if you put him in the same situation Petey is, in a pen of cattle or whatever, you know, he might not be suited for that as well. So just, you know, it's a good time to watch. Do a couple transitions, Monroe, is when you school this horse and get him into proper collection, you're going to work him in transitions. See how he'll walk, trot, and then he'll go back to walk. Oh, okay. Notice he struck his canter off very smoothly, but not perfect. Okay, now he's going to go back to a trot very smoothly. Back. Okay. There. So what he'll do in this process is every time he does that, he'll want to try to do it softer. Well, if you do that correctly, he'll do it if you just think about it. But you have to have the mindset is, I want to do that softer every time. You know, I don't want to force him into that gait. I want him just to feel what I'm thinking. And he takes that smoothly. And with that all said, you know, I'll just tell you, that's the difference between a high class and a low class horse. I mean, if you can canter around and do your transition smoothly, you're on the right track. You're doing things right. So, as you know, I got off track here about collection, but the main thing is, it's kind of like an I-beam. If you have an I-beam that's bowed up, you can put more weight on it and it flattens out, okay, as you put weight on it. But if that I-beam is bowed like this and you put weight on it, it can hold less. And where this originated, I mean, the thought process here is, if you're in the cavalry and you were marching 200 miles or 100 miles with a rider on the back and you had to fight a battle when you got there, well, if he's walking around with his head up and his back hollowed out, when he got to where he was going, his back would be sore and he would be useless. So, you know, the German army, they were sticklers about collection and proper cadence in a horse. Well, it wasn't for fashion, and it wasn't to win blue ribbons in a show. It was to keep that horse sound and keep him durable and usable through to accomplish their objective, which was to move men so many miles, get their job done, and come home and try to keep everybody from getting killed in the process. So you watch and you look at cavalry pictures. You'll never see a cavalry picture that those horses aren't standing upright and in collection with that man on his back. I mean, cavalry did it right, and they did it right for a purpose. So when we talk about being a handy horseman, that's where it all starts, and that's how you got to think about this. Folks, this isn't about blue ribbons, and it's not about fashion. It's about function. Okay? And so I think once you understand the purpose of the function behind what people now classify as fashion, okay, you'll understand this better.